The Net Advantage Silverlight line of business control set contains a family of controls known as xamSlider. So there's different types of xamSlider controls. We have xamNumeric slider, which allows you to select and display a single value along a track bar with one thumb. Then we have xamNumeric range slider, which allows you to have multiple thumbs within the track bar, so you could pretty much set ranges and have multiple points within the track bar. And then the same thing for date time values. We have a single xam date time slider where you select and display one date time value within the slider track bar and one thumb only. Then you have a xam date time range slider, which is a range of dates with multiple thumbs within the track bar. So let's take a look at the xam date time slider. So in this example, we have the single instance of this control, and notice how it's data bound to the calendar control next to it. So as I click on the calendar, because it's data bound, it's within the realm of its min and max values. So we can use this as a data entry control or display control to show what value is from your back end or whatever data model that you have bound to the UI. And then we have range slider here. In this particular example, we're using the range numeric slider so that we can define gradients. And again, it could be any kind of values that you want to display within this control. And here we're setting stop points for the gradients. And in this other example, we have regular numeric sliders oriented horizontally and vertically, and we're just binding it to this image so that we're setting its projection according to whatever value the slider has been moved to. Another important part of this control is the way the thumbs themselves behave. Now the thumb refers to this point here on the track bar. So there's different behaviors. We have free, push, and lock. So this particular thumb's behavior is set so that it's free, meaning that any other thumb can go over it and above and beyond it. And so essentially this thumb is free to just sit there and not interfere with, or not get pushed around by other thumbs as I move them around. Now the second one is set to push. So in other words, when another thumb goes up to it, it gets pushed around. So see how the blue one is pushing the green one, and now the red one is pushing the green one. So it's going to get pushed around. That's what that means. However, the blue one is set to lock. So no matter what other thumbs do, the blue one is locked in position. So it's fixed and pinned down. So once I get to that point, I can't push it away. And I can't do the same thing with this one here. So that's essentially how it works. And this is very valuable if you have a situation where you have min value and a max value, and you don't want to, overlap or kind of flip the values over, because you're always going to be looking at this thumb for a value and you expect it to be lower than this thumb here, which should be higher. That's where these behaviors work together to give you that foolproof data entry point. Otherwise you're going to have to write some logic to test if the values have been transversed or flipped over. So there's many different use cases for this control. The other thing that you can have is tooltip support. So for example here, as I move the slider and the thumb, I get a tooltip. And here's another example of range selection. And again, this is perfect for situations like you want to create a range of items that could be used in many situations, such as a filter. Give it a value, such as the difference from this point to that point could be just one value if you like. So there's many different applications that this could be used for. The xam spell checker control is great to add into any of your applications where you have text and input areas, And you want to spell check them to make sure that end users correct their typos and spelling errors before data is saved. So in this particular user control, we have a spell checker control placed within the XAML, defined in the XAML, and it's pointing to English USA dictionary. So there's various dictionary support as well, like different languages, different locales, and so forth, and a button hooked up to the spell checker so that when you click on the button, it invokes the spell check method on the spell checker itself. And the spell checker is set up so that it targets this text box text property. So if I just click the check spelling button, it launches a dialog. And notice how the dialog is designed so that it's modal and you can interact with anything behind it. So in this dialog window, you're able to ignore certain words, like for example, this is set up so that you can just ignore that word because that's an actual infragistics term. Then I could actually change this word right here, I could change this one here, or select from a list of suggestions. So you could pretty much apply this, change all, and just ignore that. So then when you click OK, because it uses two-way binding, you must specify two-way binding so that the spell checker can go into the text box and change everything and apply your changes and corrections to the text. And if we were to take a look at the code below, notice how it's as easy as just having your elements here, and then the spell checker is defined here, and notice how we point it to a dictionary file, and the spell check target is also the most important property that you can set on here, because you're targeting the elements on the form that can be spell checked. And speaking of the multilingual support, here's some of the various dictionaries that are included with the spell checker. So if we were to, say for example, choose another language and perform spell checking, this is what it would look like. So then if I check spelling, we should have some spelling errors in here. And I could just pretty much go through all of them. So if I were to test out a different dictionary, let's try this one out. And click on check spelling. So I'm going to ignore this because that's a keyword. Maybe I should just skip this part because it doesn't work. It's not smart enough. So if I were to go to another dictionary, such as Spanish, and check spelling, so ignore that keyword. and we'll make this spelling correction here, and spell checking is complete. And notice how everything was updated. So, and again, a couple of other things that you can do. You could pretty much style the spell checker dialog. So for example, if I click this here, notice how the dialog has been styled specifically. And we could also pretty much re-template the spell checker dialog as well. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with this, but most importantly is that you can provide spell checking capabilities. We could also it also supports spell checking multiple targets. So right now we have 2 text boxes in this example. If we look at the XAML below, notice that there are 2 targets that we're pointing to. So if I were to click the spell check button, and let's say if I make all these changes here, and then it will go to the other text box, and everything gets updated.
Infragistics. On the web at infragistics.com.